Hello, today we will talk about the work of water. A furrow is a typical fluvial landform that occurs under the influence of temporary watercourses and is a manifestation of soil erosion under the influence of water erosion, is narrow in depth, V-shaped, with a linear extension. As a rule, an erosion furrow occurs on slopes where flat runoff is replaced by a linear one. It is characteristic that this relief form is very unstable in time. Ravines are deep, wide, and fairly long steep slopes of a V-shaped valley resulting from the erosion of loose rocks by temporary linear streams during heavy precipitation, melting snow, ice, or glaciers. The ravines cease their growth and subsequently their existence either when they reach the erosion base, the level of groundwater, the depth of occurrence of strong crystalline foundation rocks, etc., or due to the use of special technical means against them, for example, foresting slopes, wrapping ravines with gravel, etc., or as a result of global climate change toward drier conditions. In the first case, they turn into river valleys or beams. In the other two, they grow old and overgrow. Ravines, like other fluvial landforms, are widespread in the mountains and on the plains, which are under conditions of sufficient atmospheric moisture. In Ukraine, ravines are most common in the forest steppe and steppe landscape zones. Khmelyanskyi Yar, the largest in Ukraine, with a length of more than 8 kilometers and a depth of 70 meters, arose near Kiev, Cherkasy region. A beam is a linearly elongated landform, the slopes of which are gentle and soddy. They develop due to lateral erosion, unlike ravines. The transformation of the ravine into a gully occurs gradually. The beam is characterized by a wider bottom. However, the transverse profile of the beam in the upper reaches has a V-shaped. As a result of the appearance at the bottom of the beam of streams of a constant nature having a significant length, it can evolve into a river valley. A river valley is a linearly elongated negative landform formed by the action of a permanent watercourse. The size of such a valley depends on the water content of the river, determined by the area and characteristics of the basin. In terms of river valleys, they most often have a sinuous shape. They are characterized by a gradual expansion from the upper to the lower reaches or an alternation of widened and narrow sections. The main components of the river valley are the bottom, including the channel and floodplain, and the slopes, terraced or not. Depending on the profile of the cross-section, the following river valleys are distinguished: box-shaped, trapezoidal, mainly flat rivers, V-shaped, mainly mountainous rivers, gorges, and canyons. Mudflow is a sudden, short-term stormy flood on mountain rivers, streams, and gorges with a huge amount of sediment, giving it the character of a muddy stone stream. Mudflows move, as a rule, in waves 3 to 10 meters high. They are characterized by a high content of solid material, occurring in mountainous areas where there are large reserves of loose detrital material, during rains, during intensive melting of snow and ice, and also when lakes break. The cause of mudflows are almost always heavy rains, intense melting of snow and ice, washing out of dams of reservoirs, as well as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Anthropogenic factors also contribute to their occurrence: deforestation and soil degradation on mountain slopes, explosions of rocks during road construction, work in quarries, improper organization of landslides, and increased air pollution, which has a detrimental effect on the soil and vegetation cover, etc. In Ukraine, mudflow processes are observed in the mountainous regions of the Carpathians and Crimea on the right bank of the Dnipro. Alluvial islands or plains are geological formations that are formed by constant water flows. The natural process of the formation of such islands is based on the destruction of rocks, the transfer of their particles by water, and settling out of the water with a decrease in the flow velocity. A feature of mountain rivers is the presence in the composition of alluvial islands of coarse, mainly gravel-pebble material, while lowland rivers are characterized by predominantly sandy, relatively well-sorted material. Delta. A low-lying section of the mouth of a river composed of river sediments, indented by a more or less branched network of branches and straits. They are formed due to the complex interaction of river runoffs, coastal marine processes, tides, and surge currents. Usually, the delta is swampy. The main role in the formation of the delta is played by sedimentary masses carried by the waters of the river from its upper reaches. On the way to the mouth, the flow of water in the river enters the stagnant water mass, or the area of action of tidal waves. At the same time, the flow rate decreases and particles of sand, clay, and silt begin to settle to the bottom in the form of sediment. On the territory of Ukraine, deltas are typical for the large rivers of the south, the Dnipro, the Dniester, the Danube, of which the Danube delta is the largest. Choose the type of work you want to learn about.